joining us from just off of the field at the University of South Alabama from at Hancock Whitney Stadium, everybody. From the Ringer, Todd McShay back on the program. Great to see you, Todd.
What's up, Todd?
Good to see you, Rich. I must really like you guys. Peeling myself away from, I mean, you know how important these drills are, the red zone drills for the quarterbacks. No, it's good to be with you. How you doing?
Hopefully you got somebody to tell you what I miss in those drills. So what is standing out to you at this Senior Bowl, getting ready for the draft, Todd?
I think the trenches, like the offensive and defensive line, have been outstanding. The defensive lineman in particular, Mike Green from Marshall, is going to be a first-round pick. He had an awesome rep. If you get on social media, you'll see it yesterday, just getting underneath the pads of Josh Connerly, who's also going to be a first-round pick, the Oregon offensive tackle, and just plowing through him. But it's been, the first 2 days of practices for Green just standing out as an elite edge rusher. Then you've got Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss, who, after first couple days, we have seen a couple guys decide to leave early, kind of nicked up a little bit. But you still see Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, another first-round prospect, is here, grinding through it today, looking good. Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. He's one of my favorite players in the entire draft. We talked about like the physicality. Translating to the NFL as a pass rusher, it's not just about the speed and getting around the edge. It's about working through offensive tackles and the length and the power, and then just the commitment to getting home. And he's shown all of that this week, in addition to the tape that we've seen all year long. So those are a few of the first-round guys that really stood out here this week.
How are the Eagles and the Chiefs doing what they're doing, and they're back in the Super Bowl against each other for the second time in 3 years? How is it influencing the talent evaluation and roster building in your estimation, Todd?
Well, I mean, I just went to Chicken Salad Chick. You ever been there down south? It's an institution for lunch, right? And to the right of me were the whole personnel, not the whole, but a big group, a large contingent of Chiefs scouts and personnel people. So they're here, man. I mean, it doesn't stop. If you're going to win a Super Bowl, it doesn't mean you stop the scouting process. So they're both organizations are here. Had a really good opportunity to sit down with Nick Caserio and talk about how close they are, Eric Acosta, the general managers of the Texans and the Bills respectively, and to be this close in a conference with these quarterbacks and how important this process is as part of the offseason process. It's kind of fascinating stuff, to be honest. We'll be airing that in the next couple of weeks, but it's amazing the detail that goes into the scouting process. And just talking to area scouts, Rich, and you'll appreciate this. Like, these guys are away from their families for like 4 months on the road from one stop to the next. It used to be you'd roll up to an Ole Miss, right? And you'd have like 8 to 10 prospects that you'd have to evaluate. Well, with the COVID year, with NIL, with the transfer portal, I talked to a scout today. He said he had 32 players. There are 22 starters, 32 players he had to do backgrounds on, film study on. So the landscape has changed, but the process has not.
So I guess in that regard, before we start drilling down in terms of the specifics of the draft, what advice of just seeing what happened on Sunday? And I know Brandon Beane just said, because he's up in Western New York conducting his press conference today to end the season, that you're never just one player away. But what do they need? What might be behind you on this field or in this year's draft that they could go and supplement to try and finally get past the Chiefs, if that is what is needed, Todd?
Well, if you really go back and study, right, and every year we want to take a great quarterback and say, well, add another weapon, right? And that's the easy thing to do, or plug in an offensive lineman, which has been typically teams continue to grind away at getting the best offensive front there. But I want you to go back, do a little research project at some point when you're getting ready for the combine and for the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. Look at the Chiefs since Patrick Mahomes' draft. Look at the Eagles since they got their guy in Jalen Hurts. Look at the Ravens historically. Look at all the best teams in the NFL. Look at the Bills is another example. You get your quarterback, and he's going to make up for a lot of the sins on the offensive side. He's going to protect the 10 on that side. But if you get your quarterback, the great teams and the consistently successful teams, they just keep loading up on defense, and specifically defensive front, and then maybe a corner here and there. But that's been the formula for a lot of successful organizations. So while everyone wants to see one more weapon or a flashy player, a lot of times it's just continuing to add pass rushers, defensive tackles, impact players on the defensive side. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see that trend continue with a lot of these top organizations. The organizations we look at and say, you know what, they've got a formula and it's successful and it works.
Todd McShay for The Ringer here on the Rich Eisen Show. All that said, who in your estimation is the best offensive weapon available in this year's draft, Todd?
It's a good question. I think Travis Hunter from Colorado, Heisman Trophy winner.
Nice.
Where are we going to play him, right? I mean, that's the big question. Because I look at him right now based off of tape, and you would think it would be cornerback is his best spot because it's kind of how, he was kind of pitched as a cornerback coming out of high school, and it was all about his cornerback skills. And he's a dynamic playmaker on that side of the ball. I actually think, Rich, he's a better wide receiver right now.
Wow.
But the tricky part, if you're an NFL team, if you're Tennessee sitting at number one, if you're, Cleveland or Giants, you don't go quarterback, or if you were to fall to the Patriots at 4, I think you have to play him at the primary position at corner and then put in packages for him on the offensive side. And that, to me, you go back in history, like even Dion, I went back and looked. I think he had like 60 career catches or something like that. Champ Bailey had like 2. Don't quote me on anything. But the point is, all the guys that we think back, like, yeah, they did some work on both sides of the ball. It's minuscule in terms of the production on the offensive side. So if Hunter truly is going to be a generational talent, I think it's going to have to be at cornerback and then putting in a set of plays every single week to try to get him the ball, get it in his hands. Maybe it's 10, 12 plays on the offensive side of the ball. But he's the most dynamic playmaker in the entire draft. You got Teteroa McMillan, who's a tall, lanky receiver who can get vertical and tested catches coming out of Arizona. I think he's the number 1 wide receiver. I think Matthew Golden from Texas is the most underrated wide receiver in the class. And it took until late in the season at Texas for him to emerge. But I see like a bigger Tank Dell in terms of the route running quickness and suddenness and separation skills. So he's a name as we get closer to the draft. I think you're going to start to hear more and more about. Wide receiver group, though, we've been spoiled for the last 8 years. We have been absolutely spoiled. With 4, 5, 6 receivers in every class and 3 or 4 of them every year where we're like, we know they're going to be a star. You look back on the Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons, like you just know that they're going to be exceptional at the next level. And this year, we don't really truly have that kind of talent at the top. I do think at running back, though, is the best running back class in 25 years of doing it that I've seen in terms of depth. And it starts with Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, who is, one of the runner-ups for Heisman Trophy. But beyond that, like Travion Henderson, talking to scouts here, who was in a rotation at Ohio State, for a lot of teams, he's RB2, if you will. And his combination of speed and the thing that caught a lot of scouts' eyes too, the blocking in the college football playoff, blocking in the run game, blocking in pass protection. It's going to be intriguing to see. But I think we could see more running backs drafted this year than we've seen in at least a decade.
Well, it makes sense that an Ohio State guy could block because, that's why Zeke was a top 5 pick because he could.
Yes.
He would stay out there on 3rd down and be just as valuable as his first 2 downs. And, it's just interesting, though, Todd, I asked you, most explosive offensive weapon, and you go Travis Hunter. And you mentioned Dion. Dion always told me he was a 5-down player. 3 on defense, stay out there on special teams and play first down on offense. And then when I brought up, can Travis Hunter play both sides of the ball in the pros? He goes, absolutely. And if you don't want to do that, don't draft him. And if you do, he still has a year of eligibility left. That's what he told me. But in all seriousness, the thing that he said that sticks with me also is that you draft him to play defense and your team's struggling on offense and you're a coach and you're looking on the sideline and your best offensive player standing next to you, you're not going to look good as a coach or an organization.
Totally agree.
So what are the scouting community and those in your talent evaluation community saying about his possibility of playing 100 snaps as a pro, 110 snaps as a pro? What are they thinking here, Todd?
I think we all agree he's truly different. right? And he has a motor that maybe we've never seen before coming out in the NFL draft, and the ability to actually handle that. And with the kind of the GPS tracking and all the health monitoring that we have in technology now, like, it shows that he's capable of it, right? But there's also a management, we hear load management a lot, right? In the NBA. How can I make sure this guy's going to play 17 NFL regular season games and be able to play in the playoffs? And I think in the longevity of his career, like, it's great to get that out of him as a rookie, but how long is he going to hold up? And he's not going to be 22 years old for very long,
Mm-hmm.
And when he gets to 24, 25, 20. So I think everyone's kind of cautiously optimistic is the best way I would put it, that he's going to carry a load as a skill position player that maybe we've never seen before. Okay. That's the jumping off point. But I think there's going to be a work as you go type of mentality to it. And let's see what he truly is capable of. He's also been nicked up a little bit, and you look at his frame and it's comparatively slight compared to some of these other bigger receivers or bigger cornerbacks that we're seeing here at the Senior Bowl, and you'll see at the combine and throughout the whole draft process. And so then you wonder, all right, it's a different deal. Wide receiver, I'm not worried as much, but the cornerback spot, shoulders, tackling, going and being the aggressor at times, how can he hold up? And there's no way to tell. And every player has risk of durability issues at the next level, but you have to manage that. And I think each team's going to kind of have a different view on it. The coaches are going to be like, yeah, we want on both sides. Of course, we're going to put him out there. But part of that process is going to be making sure that he can be a valuable asset on both sides of the ball for an entire year and have a long career doing that.
Before I send you back into the practice field, Todd, how do you evaluate this year's quarterback class?
Not what it was last year, obviously. I think the jumping off point for Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and Jaxson Dart, those to me are the three best quarterbacks in this class. I think the jumping off point, no matter who you have as QB1, a lot of people I talk to in the league, it's Cam Ward. Some people, Shedeur Sanders. I haven't heard anyone with QB1 on Jaxson Dart from Ole Miss, but I have heard that the gap between Shedeur and Jaxson is a lot closer than what maybe the public thinks. So with that as the backdrop, and you don't just compare it to last year's draft, but if you were, the jumping off point where you would even feasibly have a conversation, where would this guy's top quarterback go? Let's say, call it Cam Ward. It would probably be 4, but quite honestly, it might be 5. When you get down to what most teams had with Michael Penix, Bo Nix as QB5, QB6 in last year's class. So there's a few really potential starting quarterbacks in this class. It's not what it was a year ago, but I think Cam Ward specifically, if in the right opportunity, developed by the right coach, he has the best tools. He's more mobile than Shedeur. He has a stronger arm than Shedeur. But Shedeur is more, I want to say, refined and processes quicker at this point and understands the passing concepts better and he's the best pure passer in this class. But with Shedeur, you've got kind of an average arm, just average mobility, and it's a tendency in the pocket to put himself at a lot of risk. And he's tough and he's been durable, but he takes a lot of sacks. He has a lot of negative plays, and that's a concern that teams are kind of working through as well. And then with Jaxson Dart, there's no elite trait where you look at him out here, it's not their strongest arm, but he's got a strong arm. He's not, he's certainly not Lamar. He's not Jalen Milroe on the practice field moving around, but he's mobile. He's absolutely a weapon when you need to run him. So he's good in every area. I think the reason why Jaxson Dart, as we get closer, is going to start to climb is he's been through so many battles in the SEC. He's unbelievably competitive, very calm. He doesn't get rattled very easily. And you see a guy who went from in 2023 to a little bit more of a system quarterback, run heavy offense, kind of took his shots to he was carrying his team this past year and making a lot more NFL throws than I remember seeing from him on the field for a couple games live and watching his tape in 2022 and 2023. So I think as we get closer, Jaxson Dart's name is going to start to climb up the ladder.
And then just, last one for you here. It's a tough question to ask. and put you in a position, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm making you Deion Sanders. Congratulations, Todd.
Okay.
And you would want Shedeur to land where? Knowing the coach there, we don't know some of the coordinators yet, but I don't know if Tennessee's going to go in that direction. But there's Brian Callahan, the Cleveland Browns clearly have Deshaun Watson whenever he comes back, but there's Stefanski sitting there. The Giants have got Malik Neighbors and a coach and general manager that has been told by the owner, you better do it this year. You've got Pete Carroll in Vegas with Tom Brady in the front office. The Jets at 7. Where do you want him winding up if you're Deion?
Not with the Jets at 7. I would say the two that jump out to me, I think there's more rebuilding in Tennessee. Cleveland has struggled to get it done with the quarterback for a long, long time. I think the Giants with Brian Daboll, I think if you go back and look at his history, he can coach quarterbacks. He just hasn't had one. And I've known that for a long time with Daniel Jones, and he got the most out of Daniel Jones he could get. But Brian Daboll can flat out coach quarterbacks. So that is one of the spots that I would say if I'm Coach Prime. The other would be the Raiders, because we're all seeing it now. Tom Brady's going to be intimately involved, and I want that guy around my son like he was last summer. Reports are true. Spending some time with Shedeur, and I want him involved in the process of developing my son as a quarterback. So those would be the two places right now that I think if I was Deion Sanders, I would say those are the two of the 6 teams in the top 10 that are looking at quarterback by my estimation. Those are the two that I would want the most.
Todd, you're the man. Thanks for stepping out. Go back to your day job, and let's look for more of my calls, brother. I miss chatting with you.
All right.
Good to see you.
All right, catch the McShay Show, man. Spotify, The Ringer. Let's go.
The McShay Show on Spotify and The Ringer. We will do so, sir. And let me know if you ever need me on as a guest or what. I'd love to ever reciprocate. You've always been generous. You've always been generous to me. Thank you.
It's coming up. I'm going to get my payback. You know it's coming.
Do it. Do it.
I'll see you guys.
Got it. That's Todd McShay, everybody. Check out the McShay Show. I would term it something other than payback. That sounded very nefarious.
It was he was a hostage, not a
right.
volunteer.
Seriously, I'm happy to do it. My goodness. I mean, Todd's the best, man. That was fun. I miss chatting with him. Oh, we're gonna have a fun next couple of months here. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.